Okay, everybody, welcome here at Brightstar Sparkling Conversations. Brightstar Lifestyle is where you learn how to live life with more joy. Today's guest speaker is Marlene Badenhorst, and she's going to talk on self-worth. Marlene, you can maybe say something about yourself and then just lead us into the conversation.
Yeah, maybe I can say that I've journeyed with this topic for many, many years already. And it's also my favorite Brightstar theme. So, yeah, what I say comes from my heart and what I truly believe. Okay, can I start? Self-worth is something that I often wish I could wrap up in gift paper and send to every single human being on earth. I truly believe that each and everyone should know that he or she was created to be loved by an almighty God, to be so worthy that God's plan for us was to be his image bearers. And even more than that, the fact that Jesus Christ died for you and me to set us free from all fears and unworthiness. For me, it's not so easy to distinguish between self-worth and self-esteem. In my opinion, self-worth is the internal sense of being wonderfully made, worthy of love and belonging, knowing and believing in your worth as a person, your capabilities, the value you place on yourself. For me, it's got to do with a being function, whereas self-esteem describes how you think and feel about yourself, relying on external factors such as successes and achievements to define more the doing function. Of course, this can often be inconsistent because of circumstances, mood, performance, or the approval of others, and then can lead to someone struggling with feelings of unworthiness. Now, what causes the greatest damage to self-worth? I think the use of external standards rather than internal values. Peter van Jaarsveld says in his book, The Heart of a Winner, and I want to show you the book because it's really worth buying this. I did a weekend with him on emotional intelligence. Actually, this book is about emotional intelligence. But he says, we have been designed by our Creator to be winners. We've been conditioned to become losers. This conditioning restricts us from utilizing our full potential. That which is programmed into our minds by parents or siblings or teachers or society will stay in your emotional brain as the amygdala stores the memories of all your emotional experiences. For example, if negativity is programmed into the mind, the result will be that you are negative. You have a self-perception, and it often can lead to excessive self-critical behavior. When we entertain these negative and critical thoughts about ourselves, we're not responding to whom we really are or meant to be, but to a preconditioned perception of ourselves. Has a major impact on you. What people or society say about you will define how you see yourselves and can prevent me and you from ever reaching our full potential. We know that the only way to change this preconditioned mindset is to reprogram the mind. We've done a lot about the brain and reprogramming at Brightstar, so that you can make more positive decisions. Tests were done in Harvard where teachers got the locker numbers of students as their IQs, and they treated the students accordingly, expecting much of those with a higher figure like 130 and very little of those with around 80. The result is what Peter calls a self-fulfilling prophecy, as the students' achievements were in line with their locker numbers. Can you believe it? Viktor Frankl, a well-known Jewish psychiatrist who suffered badly in a Nazi concentration camp, where everything, even his clothing, was taken from him in his small dark cell, said, people can take away everything we own, except for one thing: the freedom we all have been given to decide how things will affect us, because we have a choice. We can decide how we will react or behave. We have a responsibility. During Peter's first year at University of Stellenbosch, a student counselor discussed the results of his psychometric tests with him. By telling him that he has bad news for him, as his IQ was just average and the chances of him being successful at university was unlikely. The counselor then continued by saying, please do not feel badly about this. I would recommend that you work for the railway. They have wonderful benefits like housing subsidies, medical aid, and a free travel pass every year. Peter was very depressed for about 2 days. And then he decided that he's going to ignore this advice and make a success of his life. Eventually, he got 6 degrees, and the last one was his doctorate. Why? Why was it possible for him to do that? Because he believed in himself, due to the fact that his parents and teachers believed in him. So his preconditioned mindset was that he could do whatever he wanted to do and achieve whatever he would like to achieve. And that became his self-fulfilling prophecy. Now, I also looked at the techniques that he suggested, and I added some of my own, how we can overcome a negative preconditioned mindset and negative critical self-perception. And I'm going to share my screen with you so that you can see the main things there. You got it? Okay. The first thing I think you should try to have a grounded self-worth. I believe that you get your real, true self-worth from the one who created you, to be his beloved, to find your identity and foundation in him. Then self-acceptance is so important because you have to accept who you are. You can master your weaknesses and you can utilize your strengths, work on them, optimize your strengths. Self-talk. You know what? It's really just up to you what you tell yourself. So stop your negative self-talk. Capture the negative thoughts and change them to positive ones. I often tell myself that I should be kind and mercy to myself as I would be to others. Sometimes we're so critical on ourselves that we forget we will never say that to anyone else. So remember that you are in control of your self-talk. Then positive affirmations. That's like the honking of the birds. Keep on reprogramming the mind to a positive attitude towards yourself and your outlook on life. And find the things you like about yourself and celebrate being you. Acknowledge your successes and use them as building stones to achieve even more. And then lastly, visualization. That is very important for Peter van Jaarsveld and for his whole family. They've practiced this. right through their growing up years, these children. Visualization is the use of your imagination to picture yourself in future situations where you achieve your goal or desire. In other words, to achieve mentally what you're trying to achieve physically. The reason for this is that the nervous system cannot tell the difference between the imagined or achieved goal. And that is, according to him, the reason why many people never achieve their goals or desires, because they don't use this ability. Do you remember the words of Henry Ford? Whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right. And now I would like us to talk about is it 8 minutes already? I think so. 11 minutes, too long. Okay. Nowadays, you often hear people talking about self-love. They go so far as even to say that you should first love yourself before you can love God. I have a problem with that, because I think the message of the Bible is to crucify yourself. So for me to get the balance between those two, I thought it would be good if we could talk about that. Let's discuss it. How do you feel about it? Or see yourself also as a neighbor.
Yeah, I would say biblically, the Bible tells us to love God first. Love him with all your heart, all your mind, all your soul, all your strength, and then love your neighbor as yourself. So it's God first, and then if you look at the 10 commandments also, the top 4 is about the relationship with God, and then the bottom 6 is about people. So it's always God first.
Because loving your neighbor as yourself implies that I do love myself. It's kind of
you have to love yourself first before you can love your neighbor, but you need to love God first.
Yes, I agree, absolutely.
Gordon, you unmuted?
Ja, kan ek maar Afrikaans praat? As iemand wat ek in Engels praat.
Yeah, Harry, but I will translate.
Okay, now I think it's very important to love yourself through God. I think that love will definitely come through him, but you need that to be creative in fulfilling yourself, and then to work with other people or your neighbor or people that we help in counseling. But I think it's fundamental, our love in Christ and our love for ourselves.
Yeah, I wonder if one would be able to really love yourself if you don't understand how God feels about you. You didn't first discover his love.
That was the root for me.
Yeah.
Okay. Because what counts more than that after all?
Okay, anybody else? And
I also think, yes, I agree with everything. Love God, but also accept me as a masterpiece that he made. So I love him, but if I say I love myself, it's that I accept who I am because he made me. So it's not that I'm going to love myself to death, as I'm looking for that verse now in Revelation. We are overcomers by you know that verse, but that we accept, and I am tevrede, content with who I am. And that's why, because you can't love your neighbor as you love. If you're going to love your neighbor as you love yourself, and you don't love yourself, you're not going to love your neighbor. I mean, that makes sense. So in the end, I think we realize that God first, and then who I am.
Yeah, and also just to get to the point where you can enjoy the way that the Lord made you. Not be busy longing that you were like this or that or whatever. That you just accept and enjoy.
That's what I found when I did lemon, is that I must embrace who I am.
Yes.
You know?
Mm,
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and that
I
is,
love Doug often says we were created for one another. And I mean, if I am created exactly the same as someone else, I'm not going to be, I mean, we're not going to help one another. So if we created for one another, that's why we know the lemon, you know, it makes that word. And even when you know your strengths and weaknesses, that was a pivotal moment for me when I realized what my strengths are. And that's, we're not the same, but we need one another, because someone else needs my strength just as I need someone else's strength. And also to understand what my weaknesses are, because we all have weaknesses, that I can understand if I can't do something, that is a weakness. So then I also then again need someone else to compliment me. But in the old end, it helps me to understand and accept exactly who I am. Even when we did Brightstar, when I did Brightstar right at the beginning, originally, even in the beginning when I chose my values, I realized why I feel so strong about specific things and other people don't. But it's not that they don't have that value, but that's how we differ. And that was for me also, as I say, a
super
pivotal moment.
discovery. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I'm sorry, Hanley, I'm going to cut you short now because our 15 minutes is over. So those of you who want to leave can. What we forgot to say in the previous weeks is that that one or two of us will still be available if you want to chat. But for the others, thank you so much for joining us today. And we'll see you for another sparkling conversation next week. Thank you so much, Marlene. Eh?
Thank you, Marlene.
Bye. Thank
And
you.
go
Thank you.
enjoy who you are.
Yes. Amen.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.